Yo, what is up, guys? Del Boy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. So, I was looking on Twitter earlier this evening and I noticed that Chief Content Stealing Extraordinaire Michael Benson put a tweet out informing us that Oscar De La Hoya was seriously considering making a comeback. Now, the source that he got this from was the Ring magazine. Essentially, this is what Michael Benson said. Oscar De La Hoya has declared that he's seriously considering making a comeback at the age of 47. He said he's intending to see what happens with Mike Tyson's proposed return first, but he wants a real fight against a top super welterweight or middleweight. As I said, I got this news from Michael Benson. Obviously, one of the big stories during lockdown has been Mike Tyson's proposed comeback. It's got a lot of traction, it's got a lot of hype, and I felt it was only a matter of time before we saw other old retired fighters try to follow the same path and express an interest in a comeback. I mean, we've already seen that with some fighters. Evander Holyfield, of course, has expressed an interest in coming back to fight Mike Tyson again, and I think James Toney also put his hat in the ring as well. So I'm not surprised that another former fighter is considering a comeback. I'm not surprised at all. Whether it actually happens or not is the obvious question. Me personally, I have my doubts whether any of these comebacks are going to come to fruition. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if all of these fell through and kind of just went off into obscurity. I mean, what's the reason for someone like Oscar De La Hoya coming back? I mean, ultimately, what's the motivation for someone like Oscar De La Hoya to come back? The guy was a legend of the game, a certified Hall of Famer. I believe he was like a 5-weight world champion. He headlined numerous big-time pay-per-view cards. You know, Oscar De La Hoya has been there, seen it, done it. And, you know, he's got a career that he can be proud of. It's not like the guy left boxing with, you know, loads of question marks, loads of regrets. He really did it all, to be honest. So what's his comeback motivated by? Is it by money? I mean, potentially. I've not heard any rumours that Oscar De La Hoya is struggling for money, but, you know, more money is always good, right? So maybe it is money. Or maybe it's the fact that Oscar De La Hoya misses that buzz which boxing once provided for him. Maybe he misses that competitive challenge. Maybe he misses performing in front of millions of people. You know, maybe it's just that aspect that he misses and he wants to return to that. I mean, Oscar De La Hoya, as we know, it's been very well documented that he's had a lot of problems outside the ring, particularly after retirement. Now, he's been up to all sorts of nefarious activities, from alcohol to harder drugs and sexual deviancy. The guy really has been a mess since he retired. He left the game in a great position with Golden Boy Promotions, but his inability to keep off the alcohol and drugs led him into losing a lot of his fighters. You know, at one point, he had one of the best stables in boxing, if not the best stable in boxing. Now, he's only really got Canelo and the likes of Ryan Garcia and Virgil Ortiz. You know, the last few years, Oscar De La Hoya went from an extremely respected member of the boxing fraternity to a bit of a joke, let's be honest about it. Listen, his career is set in the record books. That can't be disputed, but his behaviour outside the ring has resulted in a lot of people having lost respect for him, including myself. You know, some of the things that he's been getting up to outside the ring, I just fundamentally don't agree with, to be honest, and you can read into that how you want. And he's essentially been the butt of jokes for a long time. You know, maybe that's partly the motivation for this comeback. Maybe he wants to try and rebuild his name and regain respect amongst the boxing fraternity, because a lot of boxing fans and people within the industry just don't respect Oscar De La Hoya after everything that's gone on in the past sort of 10 years or so. So maybe that's the reason for this comeback. Maybe it's a combination of the fact that he misses the buzz and also he wants to, like I say, regain that respect. Maybe it's that, I don't know. But is it for money? Maybe. But again, like I said earlier, I've not read anything to indicate that De La Hoya is going through serious financial troubles. So I'm not sure. But what I will say is this. I certainly think a comeback would be ill-advised. From the statement we read out earlier, it looks like De La Hoya doesn't want to come back to an exhibition. He wants to come back to pro boxing, and he wants a real fight against a top guy at super welterweight or middleweight. Oscar De La Hoya doesn't have any place in the ring against a elite level super welterweight or middleweight. He just doesn't. At 47 years old, he will get hurt. He'll get badly hurt. I mean, just look at Oscar De La Hoya's last couple of fights against Steve Forbes and Manny Pacquiao. Obviously, he got beat down against Manny Pacquiao. He looked like an absolute zombie in that fight. I know there was weight problems in that fight due to the rehydration clauses, but still he looked horrible. He got beat up. And even the fight before that against Steve Forbes, where there was no sort of weight issues, he looked horrible in that fight. And Steve Forbes at that time, you know, he wasn't an elite level fighter, but Oscar De La Hoya really struggled with him. And in that fight, De La Hoya looked shot to hell, to be honest. And this was what, over 10 years ago now? So 10 years, more than 10 years later, De La Hoya is not going to be any better. You know, he's going to be a hell of a lot worse. In this 10-year period, 10-plus year period, Oscar De La Hoya has put on weight. He hasn't kept in shape. You know, he's been on substances such as alcohol and cocaine to the point where he's been in rehab multiple times. The guy's body is shot. He's too old and he'll get seriously hurt at the top of a pro game in 2020. Just that simple. So the people around De La Hoya, hopefully they talk him out of it. But listen, man, again, I'm you know, a person who believes it should be down to the individual. If De La Hoya can pass a medical and he wants to do this, then who are we to stop him? We can advise it's a bad idea, but who are we to stop him? One of those ones. Interesting story. I don't think anything will come of it, to be honest. But yeah, I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts below. Peace.